Hi guys, I'm going to introduce you to our next assessment task, which is our Animal Farm podcast. Now you can do this in groups of say 3, no more than 3, because it kind of gets a little bit unwieldy and not everyone can have equal say, and you all need to be assessed equally on this for your assessment task. So basically a podcast, if you've listened to any, I'd advise you before you start recording your podcast to maybe listen to 1 or 2 just for 5 or 10 minutes just to see how people do them. Because as well as your knowledge of Animal Farm, you're also going to be assessed on your presentation style. And I've just marked some of the humanities videos for the Fashion Revolution task, and there was not a lot of enthusiasm in that. And now with podcasts, people do podcasts because it's their passion. It's a topic they're passionate about. And yes, you're being forced to do this for English, but you also want to engage your audience with excitement and energy, enthusiasm, as well as your knowledge of the text. So what I want you to do today is and the reason I'm recording this is because I've got tradesmen in and out due to the flood that I had last week. So rather than be interrupted, I thought I'd record this for you. So what I want you to do first of all is to download the assessment sheet and read through that. And there's a number of questions that you can pick one of two, and I'm just going to open mine there. So excuse my blank screen for a sec. So your podcast should go for 3 to 5 minutes. You should focus on making a claim about the text relating to the question and supporting that claim with textual evidence. So events from the text, quotes and symbols from the text. You should also provide an analysis of your evidence referring to literary techniques that George Orwell uses or how he is intending to communicate his views and values. And right back when we started Animal Farm, we looked at what George Orwell was trying to teach his readers about Animal Farm. You know, that communism was bad, having, state control, which, as we know, Animal Farm is an allegory of the events that happened at the Russian Revolution. So he wanted to teach his readers that having absolute control or absolute power wasn't a good thing. So that's his views and values on that situation. There's also 2 attachments to today's lesson that I want you to read through as well, that talk about themes, motifs, and the allegory of Animal Farm. So there's 2 of those. So there's 3 attachments today: the assessment task, the little bit of background on Animal Farm. There's a 1-sheet page, and there's one that's about 20 pages that will also give you background on metaphor and symbology and things like that. So, the singing of the anthems and and the Beast of Burden was a motif and a symbol of oppression and things, that we needed to strike back. So I'll just continue reading through the sheet for you. So you're going to choose one of the 3 questions. So the first one is: the novella Animal Farm is more than just about animals. Discuss. So clearly the animals represent humans, and at the time that this was written, it represented various of the Russian leaders, Marx and Trotsky and people like that. So read through the background info first before you start doing anything recording wise in your for your podcast. So with your if you're talking about more than animals, you're going to be picking out examples from the text that show that it's more than just about animals. The story is clearly, yes, the animals are the characters, but it's about a broader picture. So when you're thinking about doing that one, look at the different examples that show that the animals aren't really animal-like at all and how they resemble humans, and draw it back to the Russian Revolution and the various characters in that. Second question is: Animal Farm, it reveals the idea that power can cause people to behave badly. How does Orwell show this in the novella? So we've just done a whole essay on the power imbalance. So you could certainly relate to that with this question, that if you've got power, how it corrupts. Again, draw it back to the Russian Revolution, that background there that Orwell relates it to, the allegory of. You can talk about power in today, how power is being misused today. So examples from today, but you really need to back this up with examples from the text. So where power is being abused by Mr. Jones, by Napoleon, by, the dogs, speak to that in your podcast. And then the third question is, Orwell uses the novella Animal Farm to express his view that people's ignorance can contribute to political and social oppression. Discuss. Now, this one's a little bit meaty, but if you want to challenge yourself, have a go. But again, it's about how people just follow along, they're sheep, rather than sort of, if they say that something's a little bit odd, rather than sort of question it, people generally, humans generally, and in the Animal Farm, the animals will just go along because it's the path of least resistance. It's, they don't want to buck the system or upset the apple cart sort of thing. Again, we can draw it to the COVID thing. We've been locked in our houses for nearly 3 months. Yes, it was for a health situation, but has anyone really asked? More people die from cancer than COVID, and we're not locked in our houses from that. So no one's really kind of risen up. There is now groups that are talking about the fact that we're all being controlled, and the what is it, the G5, the phone thing. What is it called? Hang on, I'll look at my phone. Optus. The towers, the 5 towers, signal that they're all, controlling us, and this vaccine for the COVID is going to be a worldwide tracker. And so there's people who are talking conspiracy theories. But back to the question, Ms. V, it's about the if we're not informed and we're ignorant, if we don't find out things for ourselves, we can be controlled and we can be oppressed, and rather than go along with the flow. So that third question is quite deep and detailed. So if you want to have a go and you're a higher order thinker, absolutely do. But you're going to have some really good examples and some good explanations. So what you will do is then on Tuesday or Wednesday, if you're seeing this 19V, you're going to download the assessment task, read through it. Download the 2 attachments about the background of Animal Farm. Then you're going to pick your one question, your group that you're going to work with, and then you're going to start writing a script. You are not to go straight into recording your podcast. It needs to be scripted, and once you've written a script and then read it out loud, see if it flows, time it for 2 to 3 minutes, then you can start recording your podcasts, okay? I'll be around for questions, but as I said, I'm going to have 100 tradesmen here next week pulling up carpet and laying carpet, and it's just going to be a nightmare. So this is why I've done this today, so that you can instead of having me in real life, you've got a recording of me. And you can also go back and refer to this. So I'll leave it at that. Just remember, download the assessment task, download the other 2 attachments that talk about the background, the metaphors and things like that. We'll talk about this more further during the week, but that should be enough to get you started picking your question that you'd like to address, picking your group, and then starting to write a script to before you could start recording your podcast. Again, listen to a couple of podcasts, even just for 5 minutes or so. I've listed a bunch in today's planner, literary podcast, because this is supposed to be a literary task. And just have a listen to a couple, because I think you really need to hear how they sound, particularly if you don't hear them. And podcasts today, particularly, from Fox FM and stuff, they're just basically recordings of their radio show. They're not a podcast per se. So a podcast generally has a topic, an interest, a theme, and that's what your podcast is going to have. So I'll leave it at that, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.